The outbreak of COVID-19 has affected many countries, including Ghana. Although the number of COVID-19 cases and fatalities might still appear comparatively low in Ghana than in other world regions, the looming health shock of COVID-19 could have disastrous impacts on the country's already strained health systems, especially on vulnerable groups and people living in exclusion. This has turned into a social and economic emergency that's affecting marginalized and excluded groups of people by worsening social safety nets and threatening food and health security, especially for alleged witches and their dependents. The pandemic will affect women and their dependents living in persecution in the alleged witches' camps who barely feed and clothe themselves, with their survival built on donations from philanthropists. The inflow donations to the camps is sluggish due to the impact of the virus on potential and actual donors.
Women in northern Ghana have been accused of witchcraft, and due to the deep-rootedness of the belief in witchcraft, usually when women are accused, they are banished, and the only places that they found to be safe is communities that are designated as witches' camp that they end up. They end up also because they do not want to be lynched or to be killed. And so you have a lot of women who have found themselves in the various alleged witches' camps. Well, usually when women are accused and they are banished, they usually get lucky to have taken any property along. Most of the time you have their property destroyed. And so what is of importance to such an accused person is about her life. And so usually she arrives in the camp with nothing. And so what she needs to survive on is the benevolence of other people, philanthropists, civil society organizations that are working in the camp, and sometimes some aid that may come from other bodies. Sometimes we have some district assembly showing a concern by just doing something. But many a time, women who are at the camp are solely for themselves. They only get support from civil society organizations that are working there. And many a time, if they are not able to feed, it becomes the responsibility of the camp priest.
Born Adam Musa, many you know pattern tendance you vote. And too many years when you beat is after so, you know, or came you off. Or you pack pattern, and pattern tendance you took on telling and noon, can resort to you for young man. Camino, no tab market as I told them, command tabs our. Do you know Ben Shakam? Ben you know, came your man, you know, down to road down my son to Bohoya, like this at the Bohoya Nancy. Be Buraman the Bedio Okuli can run to Baby Lab or the Boshi, Kachoko Bene, Camino, Catlegian, Labati Din, Carnella, show you Jompana, Cadapana Swans or Canacaracuno, Zomna, Cambedi Sharaka, Swazon, and Bedir Lala. And dear La Wonkana Chada, young Mayana, Lankan on the shop. Dear me, Nunkurungo Bubma, 8 borough, ne kana to bo ya do ngon nan di la na ma patang tang wan mi be di la ko ya an di la na kala to mi di la ne patang za yu la chef da yi gu sha kana asam ne da ya an te dok de injection la do Covid-19 ma injection kala tite ne te mal pa no ka cha ka ta anda lenti nang bang pobre se ka tok te kamane dini muaza yela dorlo to dorlo mami nay bla nang bang pobre ma po ka bi ko po ni pese de kulo te ay cham mo ne aku to ji chi wona ta para ni ka ma la bu ma na yen pyang mo na to mbole ta dati mo ma da kala nang mran to lala pamma de wo mo ma tu la de nyang ma de la la ma na ya te ka de ba fu nan kana so so ta ma tu ma bu ma ben dan ma bra yel ma ka da no la de so so ma ka to bu le antum de la tu ma chen ta ma den lan la ma na ma she yin na ku ka wannan nan yete sawara ne din dan kana da kamsan.
As an organization working to secure basic rights for women and girls, Songtaba realizes that the situation may further expose girls and women to increasing gender-based violence, which will deepen the vulnerabilities of women and their dependents living in the alleged witches' camps.
The betola canna, so come to a radabia, the miracle, Bendago can achieve to me, them farm, Nasabrati, Kama, the betola can, and the Madurman and Nama, so come to a radabia. The yellow of Kunya Jurmama, minted the Panama, Sai, whom you shield, the tongue of the Evan, Argent Kaka, the apple to be tuned. When zero went on to Alan Kaya, October to come on your yellow service. Do to Jera or come on and Leo, for Alani and Canatili Alana. To Chong Artem Takaya to them, the Roma man in the matters I have to announce the Roma. The Chanka checked them and I cannot summon to Manama, Benjura and a Jumo for Benja Apollo, Bogotuan Cana. That's an hour now whom the Roma Carachanka. Jumo be negotiated in the Benjura, but I cannot summon it.
The health care of these women are at a risk of being truncated in these emergency times. It is reported that 1 million girls may not return to school after COVID-19 due to teenage pregnancy as a result of lockdowns. This calls for pragmatic measures through advocacy to be adopted to revert the situation.
All stakeholders must work together to ensure that we stop witchcraft accusations. We call on our chiefs and our religious bodies to use their space that they have to work with us so that we intensify our campaign towards women's protection. We want to encourage any woman whose right has been violated to report to the appropriate authorities like the police station. We can appreciate that sometimes police stations are not nearer to where these accusations come in. That is where we call on the chiefs to set in and guard the protection of women. We need a more coordinated effort from the departments that are responsible for the protection of these women. At the District Assembly, we encourage that the needs of these women, especially as COVID has set in, their vulnerabilities and they are at stake of a much vulnerable situation. Their needs are well captured in the medium-term development plans that the District Assemblies plan for, and ensure that we do not just have segmented support, but we have a more coordinated one. In the meantime, we want to encourage that all women at the camp are captured to benefit from the Livelihood Empowerment Program because they are even more vulnerable. We also want to encourage that their health needs are met by encouraging that The NHIs register all of them to benefit from this. COVID has set in, the women are more vulnerable, and we're encouraging that all civil society that are working in the protection of women and girls put in effort to make sure that we support these women who are living in exclusion.
The safety of the alleged witches and their dependents in these emergency times is critical and needs attention by policymakers. This is a call for enhanced policy response and action in creating support systems during this pandemic period and other emergency times for vulnerable groups and their dependents, such as this alleged witches camp.